You ready? Everybody ready over there? Ready? I don't have a gavel, but... North Smithfield Town Council, June 6, 2022. Madam Clerk, will you lead us with the prayer and the pledge, please? Roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Open forum pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-6. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to be heard during open forum? Mr. Clifford?
I wanted to ask about the legal advertisement that was in the paper for the proposed changes in the property tax rates. And I noticed that all three, residential, commercial, and tangible, are both being decreased by about the same percentage. And I wondered why that is. It doesn't seem to be logical to me, because when the tax assessor gave her report on the reevaluation, she said that on average, single-family homes went up by 22%, 2 to 5 families went up by 26%, and commercial properties increased by 7%. So clearly, the homeowner took it on the chin more than the commercial property. So I don't understand why that's going down by the same percentage as the residential. And I don't understand why tangible is going down at all, because tangible property is not subject to reevaluation. It's just what the commercial properties in town report as their tangibles. I don't see the benefit in dropping that rate, other than to give National Grid yet another big break, because they're our largest taxpayer. And the others follow through Darling Village, and they require all the police coverage and services of the town. So I'd like to know how that was arrived at and why we're doing this. I've noticed another town similar to ours just went through reevaluation, Smithfield. And Smithfield lowered their residential rate from $17.13 to $13.36. And they kept the commercial rate at $18.70, just as it was. And they kept the tangible rate at $59.74, just as it was. So they had the same experience with their reeval. The residential homeowners got hit hard, but they put all the decrease in the tax rate towards the homeowner. And it seems to me that we're getting doubly hit here. We're getting hit for having reevaluation done, and we're also getting hit because we're picking up a bigger share for the commercial and the tangible property taxes in town. So this is an ad from the administrator, so I'm wondering if he would be good enough to explain to us what the rationale and the reason is.
No, it's okay. What Mr. Clifford is inquiring as to why the commercial rates and the residential rates. Mr. Clifford, tell me if I'm going wrong. Where he's inquiring why the commercial rates and residential rates. It seems that the bulk of the hit is taken. The residents, yeah.
Yeah, by their legal advertisement, it showed that the old residential rate was $17.13, and the new one will be $13.36. And the commercial property rate isn't changing, nor is the tangible tax rate changing.
I believe
that the residential rates in North Smithfield will be dropping. I'm going to defer to the finance director so that she can answer your question in more detail.
Well, that's not the question, though. I know that the residential rate is going to be dropping, but what you've advertised as the estimated
Pretty much
proposed
the
rate.
same, yeah, okay.
My question is, I want to know why is the tangible tax, for example, dropping from $43.69 per thousand to $39.48 per thousand? That's 9.64% according to the ad. And then on the flip side, the residential is only dropping $1.58, which is 9.67% off the rate. And our properties went up, well, you heard her breakdown, but, over 3,000 of them went up well over 10%, and on average 22. So why are we splitting it that way?
Cynthia, yeah.
Those are not the set rates, those are just estimates. We have deadlines to meet, so we did it across the same percentage until everything's put in the system and everything's finalized, the budget's adopted. At that point, we can propose the rate to be a little bit differentially, we can, go ahead. You look like you want to say.
I don't know, the last few years, what we're putting on this document has been changing drastically. Last year, when we came in, 2 years ago when we came in, there was a dollar amount there for tangible property, and then it was announced at the meeting that, oh no, that wasn't the right amount, should have been higher. This is supposed to be a true estimate that you're attesting to as to what the rates are going to. You had to have this approved by the Municipal Affairs Office to publish it. I don't think it was supposed to just be everybody's gonna do the
All right,
same thing.
I don't.
Let me just say,
Okay, go ahead.
you asked her, and she answered, and now what's gonna happen is we're gonna do the budget, and then when the numbers come out with the budget, when the budget's done, then you can say that you're not happy with something, because we don't even know where those numbers are gonna fall right now.
That's what this is supposed to project.
The
Just
budget's
like we
not
were
done yet.
supposed to have the meeting before Christmas with the school department to look at the revenue and
The
expenses.
budget's not done yet.
But we didn't do that either, and that's required by law, and this is required by law. Okay, secondly, since we're not gonna go anywhere on this one tonight, I'd like to know why what's gonna happen with the police station? I mean, you've said, well, we're gonna put it off for at least a year, and, a couple of months ago, we were all in a state of hysteria because, the building's almost ready to be condemned. They're gonna be in that building for 3 more years, one way or another. If you go out for a bond issue next year and decide to build something, it's gonna take 2 years minimum to build something, from start to finish. So are we expecting that they're gonna stay in there 3 years and have absolutely nothing done to that building? Or are we gonna actually use the $1 million plus that we have left from the bond issue to at least repair the roof and stop the leakage and stop the deterioration? Or are we looking forward to the building deteriorating to the point where it is condemned? I don't understand why we're not doing anything with that. I haven't read anything in the paper about, trying to do some things. 2 years ago, the town council charged the MBRTF with doing those repairs. They never did them. So I'd like you to put that on the agenda of some meeting to discuss what are we doing with the police? How long are they gonna stay in there under those conditions? And why aren't we repairing the building so it doesn't deteriorate further?
Okay. Yeah.
What?
We have a municipal building review task force update, and maybe they'll be addressing that tonight.
Could you, okay.
Was there anybody else that wanted to be heard? Jeff?
That's on. Jeff Porter, 6 Country Way. I just wanted to address something because I read quickly in the budget report here that the money that the planning board had initially put aside for Halliwell at $120,000 for a master plan was put in for $60,000 by the town administrator and has since been cut to 0 because of what has been listed as uncertainty surrounding the use of the Halliwell space. I think at this point we are actually in a pretty good shape. We can certainly talk more about it at the Halliwell Review Committee update. But I think at this time I would request that the town council take a hard look at that number I understand that there are some potential grants that we could go after. They're not guaranteed to help out in such master planning studies. However, I would say that we want to take a hard look at that because the committee is ready and will be presenting to the town council in the next month or so all of our findings, in that we are very well set to go out for a request for qualifications for master planning. In my field of work, you know, 60,000 is okay. You'll get a decent study, but really, you know, to get a good master plan taken care of, it's usually in the range of $120,000 to $150,000. So that's just for some education for everybody to kind of planning-wise know about, but it certainly wouldn't fall under the, you know, $30,000 or below designer services to go through the master price agreement. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard during open forum tonight? Nobody? Okay, let's move on. Okay, what we're going to do right now is we're going to move new business A. Discussion by council vote or other action on presentation of citation in recognition of furniture donation to the town hall. This is for Mr. Dave Chamberlain and the Capuano Group, Kelly Coates, who is also the CEO of Capuano. And myself and Mr. Vadenais sponsored this agenda item. Mr. Vadenais, could you explain to everybody exactly, you know, how generous they were?
As we went through in doing the building, we had a limited budget, as everybody knows. And so as we were going through the process, Capuano Group, which David Chamberlain was also a member of the task force, he had mentioned that they had a building that was full of office furniture that they were looking to get rid of, because just to put out on the market creates a different problem in the secondary market. And so anything that we could potentially use, they were offering to us for nothing. The administrator at the time, Mr. Zwolenski, went down with several people, went down and they mocked what they wanted. And so this other side of the building where they work every day, all of those offices are outfitted with office stations, workstations, conference rooms, a conference room in there, these chairs that we're sitting in, a whole host of things. I bet you they must have taken 3 or 4 truckloads of stuff, big truckloads of stuff. And then we hired a company that took it apart, knew how to reassemble it, and they came and reassembled it all here and everything. So all those stations that we have in here were donated to us. And they probably saved us, I think, a cautious estimate, $200,000 to $250,000 that have saved us. So it was a really nice thing that they offered, and we took advantage of it, and now we're going to reach out and thank them for it.
Mr. Chamberlain, I'm going to read the citation. Be it known to all that on behalf of the people of North Smithfield, Town Council, and the Town Administrator, hereby present Dave Chamberlain, SVP of Construction, Capuano Group, in appreciation for your generous furniture donations to the Town Hall. It's signed by Paul Zwolenski and all of the council members. If you could just come right on up. Thank you.
I'm going to give them Kelly's.
Yeah, Dave. Well, also, we had one for the CEO of Capuano, Kelly Coates. If you could just please give him my appreciation, and thank you. You know, I have the privilege, Dave, I just have one thing. I have the privilege of working in the same field that Dave, we cross paths a lot, and he's very, very respected in his field, and we're very lucky to have him on our boards, and you're volunteering your time and service. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, there was also, we were going to do we're going to reschedule, I know that I mentioned to you that we were going to do Calapichetti, but unfortunately, she is at freshman orientation. And Cal organized a road race, and she donated, is gonna donate thousands of dollars, which, you know the exact number that she's gonna be donating? Over $12,000 to our veterans. So we're gonna do that presentation at the next meeting. Pastor Martin, Cables? Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna put you right up so you don't have to sit around and listen to all the other stuff. So we're gonna go down to new business H, discussion by council vote of other action on request by Pastor Martin Caples to have worship service, community outreach outside on July 9th, 2022. Location be determined, but in your letter, you indicated that you wanted to use this parking lot? Yes. Come on up to this.
Yes, again, thank you for the opportunity of coming here. Yeah, so we wanted to see if we can have an option of another place other than our own church property, being that since we've had problems with the neighbors and stuff like that. So we suggested this location, but we're also open to other places that you guys can suggest that we can have our worship service, you know, and then there wouldn't be a problem, so. We're just open to whatever you guys suggest on locations.
I have the perfect location for you. I do. And I spoke to Mr. Pendergast about it, and he's on the same page. How about Halliwell?
Okay,
You familiar with the property?
Yes, it's the old school, right?
Yeah. He put you down in Halliwell, you guys can do your thing, and you don't have to worry about, I mean, there's nobody really in the immediate area. There's all trees, and, you
Yeah.
know, you'll have your privacy, and I don't
got
think,
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
it's better than being in a residential area.
Yes,
You know?
yes, I got you. That's fine. So, what would be, as far as if we needed, porta potties or something, that'll be through the.
Yeah, you guys are gonna have to take care of that, and also, which would be very minor, you're gonna need an insurance rider for,
Yes,
for when you're on the property.
we have that. We have that already.
Okay,
We have that already. Yeah, we needed it for the city-owned socket, so
all right, perfect.
So we
Yeah,
have-
so you don't have to go to Woonsocket, we can
Yeah.
accommodate you here.
that's awesome, that's awesome. And does the city do like, chair rentals or something, or you guys have any chair rentals or no?
Unfortunately, you know, you're gonna be on your own on that one.
Okay, no, so sometimes park and recreations do that.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
these chairs are what we,
I got
What
it,
you
you know,
see.
well, we appreciate it. I take the opportunity to
You'll be able
thank
to get
every,
power there?
I take the opportunity to thank every, you know, council member, and we appreciate that you guys, were gracious enough to approve it, and we're happy with it, so,
okay.
so thank you for
See,
your
a
time.
little better outcome than last time, right?
Yes,
All right.
a lot better. So
Okay.
what would happen now? I'll get like a document, right?
Yeah, what we'll do is, we'll put you in touch with Mr. Pendergast, and he'll help you work out all the details with electricity and what you need down there, and
Okay. Okay.
you're on your way.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
God bless everyone.
Did anybody, we're good? Good? Want to do the budget now? These glasses are too strong. Want to do the budget now?
Is this just a one-time deal?
Pastor?
Is this just a one-time deal? Or we're gonna try it once and see how it goes before we look for another? Okay.
yes. Well, I would like for it to be maybe once a year,
All right, well, just to let you know, come fall is probably the time that we're looking at tearing down the buildings over there, so at that point, probably wouldn't be the best time to be out there. But before that,
Obviously, we wanted to do maybe once in the summer,
perfect,
That's pretty much it, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right, good luck. Thank you. Should we do the budget now? Which one? Which one? Yeah. Doug, we're just gonna go through a couple of stuff real quick, all right? All right. Let's go to new business C. Discussion by council vote of the action on award of bid for crack sealing. Mr. Pendergast.
Good evening. Finally, we were able to locate a city or town that, this used to be under the state master price agreement for seal coating yearly. So for the last 2 years, we haven't had any done. Smithfield went out to bid, and it's still the same company that we used to have the state master price agreement with. So therefore, we have requesting your approval to piggyback off the town of Smithfield's seal coating bid to seal coating DB8 Indus out of Braintree, Mass. We're going to take the last 2 years. We have $50,000 set aside. We usually put $25,000 to $30,000 for crack sealing. That comes out of the operation budget for road repairs.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Mr. Pendergast's request for the crack ceiling?
Mr. President,
Ms. Vadenais?
make a motion that we award the bid, or we piggyback the bid from Smithfield for seal coating Inc., doing business as Indus, Day 25 Granite Street, Braintree, Mass., at the price of $13.71 a gallon, with a not-to-exceed number of $50,000.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes? It's not a vote, that's not necessary for a vote. Yep.
Thank you.
Ray, while you're up there, we got another one, we'll do E now for you for the loader.
Okay.
Is that all right?
That's fine. I just got to pull that package out.
Okay. Discussion by council vote of the action on purchase of 2017 Hyundai loader. Ms. Pendergast? When you find it, take your time.
I got it. In our capital budget for the last year, 90,000 was reserved. In this present budget, we have another 90,000 reserved. And what we've been doing for the last several years in capital is putting in for heavy equipment. And 3 pieces of equipment that we're going to need shortly is the loader, street sweeper, and backhoe. So let's just take this. And so what we're trying to do, and I put in for another 90, I believe it 90, 95,000 for heavy equipment, and that would go towards the street sweeper and the loader for the next several years. With that said, that's just a little background history on this. Right now, the loader has been down several times. It unfortunately, last year, I believe, or 2 years ago, it went down in the middle of the winter, which is an essential piece of equipment for us. So we were able to receive a proposal for a used 2017 Hyundai loader, which has 550 hours, which is next to nothing, to be quite honest with you. The purchase price, it was a lease through a contractor. He bought it back and has offered it to us for $103,500. We have quotes in excess of $200,000 if we were to purchase a brand-new loader, and probably wait about 2 to 3 years to get it. And unfortunately, I can't wait 2 or 3 years when a loader goes down, and then we end up renting it, and we get a piece of rental that's just subpar. We have 2 quotes in your package for the same type of 2017 Hyundai, one for $121,000, and then the 2019 Hyundai for $139,020. So I'm asking permission or your approval to purchase this from Mr. Jeffrey Piet, the contractor who has given us the proposal.
Anybody have any questions? The motion to approve?
Mr. President,
Ms. House?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2017 Hyundai Loader, model 940 TM with 550 hours from Jeffrey Piet in the amount of $103,500 per the recommendation of the administrator and the Director of Public Works.
And we have a second? Thank you. Is the roll call, please? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Claire seconded, by the way. I don't know if you're, okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to F now. Discussion by council whether other action on possible illegal dumping at Union Cemetery. Just let me give you a little background on this. Gail Burlingorf, she requested, she asked myself and she asked the administrator to take a ride by the cemetery and take a look at what's over there. And then she indicated that she was gonna come to open forum and speak at open forum and maybe even give a little presentation. I thought that open forum, that would take up all the time during open forum for one person. We already have one person that takes up all the time in open forum, so we wanted to we wanted to give her a spot on the agenda. At the same time, we allowed I asked the people from Union Cemetery that they would come here and they would be heard as well. Now, nothing's going to be settled here tonight. This is just, she asked to be heard. We're going to hear her. Ultimately, it's the building inspector who makes the final say on this whole thing. And he already spoke to DEM. We'll let him speak after everybody else, but she wanted to be heard, so I'm giving you the time.
Mr. President.
Mr. Vadenais.
Before we really go down this road, I really have to object to this. We shouldn't even be hearing this. I'll be honest with you. Your prerogative to set it as an agenda item. This board should not be hearing this. This is a complete 100% administrative function of the administration, building inspector, zoning inspector, the administrator. We shouldn't even be hearing this. I think that just by us hearing this, we're going to open ourselves up to potential legal issues that we don't want to deal with. My opinion. But you want to hear them out, but I'm going to object that we shouldn't be listening to it. It has nothing to do with us. We shouldn't even be wading into this thing. We're crossing a boundary that we shouldn't be crossing.
Okay, we're not wading into it. I already explained that we're not going to make any decisions. I spoke to the solicitor about it. We're well within our bounds to allow allow the public to be heard. She wants to be heard. I'm going to allow her to come up and say what she's got to say, but we're also going to allow the other side to say what they got to say. And once again, we're not making any votes or action on this issue at all. Ultimately, it falls in the hands of the building inspector. You want to come up?
Go to the first. First screen slideshow from the beginning. Okay. Good evening, honorable council members, administrator, building inspector, and everybody in the audience. Union Cemetery, Great Road, North Smithfield, Rhode Island, North Smithfield, NS007 is a historic cemetery. It's one of the prettiest and well-maintained cemeteries in North Smithfield. I've lived behind this cemetery my whole life. Unfortunately, the current managers of the cemetery did not. Next one. This is a 1952 overhead from the map contours for the GIS. You can see Milton Avenue. It borders the cemetery. Then there's William Street that goes in. We are at a 235 degree elevation. The cemetery is at 295 degree elevation. There is a very big drop in there. Go ahead. That's Milton Avenue. Go ahead. In 1952, this was a swamp. This is a very big swamp that continued up to the side of Milton Avenue, had its own little tributaries, and just continued off to South Main Street. This green area here is a farmland that connected to this swamp, because when you're having a farm, you need the water to use for the composting. So there was a really nice swamp there that was being used by this field by the owners of the house on William Street. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, the farmer would also get his water from the 30 to 40-foot hill to water his crops. I was told that by an older gentleman. Go ahead. He said there was also possible old burial grounds there. I had talked to Mr. Keene from the Historic Cemetery Commission. He didn't think there was one. I still would like to see some more people go there. Go ahead. This is 1960. Go ahead. The white building in the back is the Union Cemetery office. You can really see it very well from my street. Go ahead. The fields on William Street would flood constantly, but as kids we would skate on the pond. And this is the fields, and this is part of the fields that they would grow the crops in, and they would get the water from the swamp. Go ahead. You'll notice this red line, go ahead, in the next photos. Go ahead. This is what I saw in April of 2022. Go ahead. What is this? What is the dirt they're pushing around? Go ahead. Why are the large trucks dumping? Go ahead. No letter informing the abutters why they were doing what they were doing. What's underneath? You tell me after you see these photos. There are a few questions the abutters of Union Cemetery are asking, and there's quite a few. There are a few of them that are here, but there are a few of them that are not here. They're afraid to be here. They want an honest answer and no lies. I myself, in the past 4 years, have been yelled at, spit on, and lied to by employees and or representatives of the Union Cemetery. Where was the respect towards a woman? How much are they charging these 10-wheel or 20-yard trucks to dump there? This dirt didn't just appear. Why was this kept on the back burner with the town? It's been 4 years of dumping and constant noise. Loud noise. Are the citizens going to be the victims of another LR&R or Stamina Mills? Or will they find out in 50 years that their wells have actually been polluted? Go ahead. What's going to happen? Environmental and water pollution. Private wells will be affected and health issues. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was a little bit emotional because I get emotional. So, disease, cancer, intestinal issues, and heart problems are going to happen. And even death. And I'm going to show you why. Go ahead. Why did my friend die on William Street? And am I next? Go ahead. Rhode Island DOT corrects well water issues in North Smithfield caused by oversalting in 2020. Okay? Go ahead. Where does this pavement go when they tear up this pavement? This is oversalting. Where is this pavement going to go? Go ahead. Are the rebar and tires allowed too? Go ahead. DEM says that the impact is minimal. That's what my town official told me. They are allowed to dump again. Go ahead. Seriously? Where did this come from? This is 35 feet of tar. And unfortunately, it's really cloudy, but this is just amazing to see. Go ahead. This is in 1997. That blue line is actually the stream line that goes down the embankment, goes down through, and then ends up on William Street. Okay. That is the White House that we can see, okay. And that's where we were standing. So you can see there's a big difference. There is a big difference, but, go ahead. That's the streamline. Go ahead. Okay, this is 2018. The cutting and the dumping has started. Fall of 2018, there were no leaves to hide the excavation and the land clearing. My mother was 93 years old, and she still is, by the way, and all we could hear is the dump trucks banging to get their dump trucks clean. And she's going, what the, it scared her. And everybody on the street, up, they're dumping again. Up, they're dumping again. Well, this is 4 years of hearing the dumping, the brakes, and the big trucks going in and out, in and out. Go ahead. This is a blow-up shot of that same dump area, okay? In 2019, the dumping and the loud bangs, the air brakes, and the backup alarms got very worse, and you can see what else they're dumping. Go ahead. And this is 35 feet high, and it's there's nothing there to protect. There is no fence there to protect any children that are going to be going from Union Cemetery to that back area, the children can run away real fast. And guess what? They're going over that mound. And guess what's in it? Rebar and tires. Go ahead. We're getting close to that man-made silt fence that I've been seeing all the time. What engineer told them that the old trees and leaves would hold back the mud and the sludge coming down the hill? Why not find out in 200 years why this hill had never been filled in? Who monitors this? Go ahead. So what really is under this mountain of pavement? I'm going to show you. Go ahead. Go ahead. After several calls to the building inspector, a cease letter was sent in October 2021. Go ahead. Be advised, this activity is in violation of Article 2, Section 8-21, dumping at approved places only of the North Smithfield Code of Ordinances. They had to cease immediately. Failure to cease this activity will result in enforcement. Go ahead. This ordinance was the same 1974, and it didn't change. Go ahead. November 2021. Go ahead. As you can see, it didn't stop. Go ahead. And there's a stop sign there. I know which street that came off of, and I'm insulted. Go ahead. The December of 2021, Mr. Anderson told me they were planning to go to the town council for a permit. Well, let's just cover it up. We got rebar, tires, you name it. Go ahead. For what? For a landfill? Go ahead. I was told this dump was actually picked up and turned out and gone by. Go ahead. It just gets covered over before DEM or the police get there. It's been here for years, this oil tank, okay? How do I know there wasn't any oil in this tank? You know how many oil tanks that I found in the Union Cemetery over the years? I can count on 2 hands. Go ahead. This will never be cleaned up. Just left to be buried in a pile of rocks and leaves. And I'm going to show you, go back. Sorry. And I'm going to show you right here. This is an old mattress that's been covered in leaves for years and years and years and years and years. I grew up here. I know every single foot of that cemetery. That's what made me get into cemetery work. I love cemeteries. Historical cemeteries. Go ahead. Go ahead. This was their idea of a silt fence. It was actually in April I heard them installing the black silt fence, the day I met the town administrator and the new building inspector at Union Cemetery. Go ahead. What happens if there's a fierce rainstorm? It's 2022. Who's going to help? They said the town would have to pay for a hydrologist. Isn't this lovely? Lovely. Go ahead. I'm not an engineer, but if you put a lot of water on an unsecured 35-foot pile, we will have a mudslide. Where did this come from? Now the problem's water. The more you push the bank towards the forest, the faster it goes. They said the town would have to pay for a hydrologist. Is this contaminated? Where's it going? The water. Uh-oh. Go ahead. Their silt fence didn't work. This mud and everything went past the silt fence and into the forest. I'm sorry, but that water going into the forest might be contaminated. I don't see anything being held back. Inadequate culvert at William Street. And sometime in the 1980s, a culvert was installed for water that came from the top of William Street and Milton Avenue. The white one on the left-hand side is the pipe. And it didn't actually hold any excess water from the cemetery. Go ahead. So actually the water was coming over and it's flooding. We'll try again, okay. And there it is, it's flooding William Street. So who do we go to now? Go ahead. Rotted out pipe cracked William Street and eventually caved in after numerous calls through the past 3 years. I've called to the DPW to at least dredge the culvert out. That didn't happen. Why? Go ahead. I was told in 2020 it wasn't in their budget. So I'll look that up too. So, you know, I got to know the ordinances. I had to get to know ordinances. So the first one I went to was health and sanitation. See, no person shall deposit or dump or suffer to permit to be deposited or dumped any rubbish except approved. So this dump rubbish, I was told, was taken away. The guys went all the way down to the bottom. He just told me tonight that was cleaned out. Go ahead. There's got to be a way to stop the landfill. I'm sorry. This is a landfill. Go ahead. Chapter 8, Article 2, accumulations of filth or refuse. You know, it's only until someone really complains that they really clean it up. We heard from the cemetery officials, people have been dumping for years and we can't stop them, you know? I found some tramps camped there, the old part of the cemetery. When they left garbage and tarps and tents and a mess. Who do we know went there? I don't know. Go ahead. The North Smithfield Town Council, pursuant to the provisions of Rhode Island general laws, adopts the following regulations and standards to govern the protection of all cemeteries, burial sites, or burial grounds, whether recorded or unrecorded, and whether marked or unmarked. These regulations and standards shall not apply to the ordinary installation of graveyards. This is not ordinary. They want to make new grave sites. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with what they're dumping to make these grave sites. And why isn't it protected on the bottom? This is section 8.93, in case you want to know. The regulations, an application to alter or remove a cemetery. The buffer zone means a certain area of land surrounding the cemetery that is set back 25 feet in all directions from the boundaries of the cemetery. But for removal or alteration of a cemetery, any owner of land seeking to alter or remove a cemetery or any portion thereof shall, prior to any alteration or removal, submit an application for a permit from the town council. Where's the permit? There is none. I wrote to the town of North Smithfield Town Clerk's office on November 2nd, 2021, and I did not call please November. I spoke with the building inspector, that's Joanne, and there were no approved lists containing information to dump on their property. At the moment, on November 2nd, the building inspector is contacting the police. If you have any further questions, please feel free to call me. Now, section 13, I always thought it was section 18, but I brought it to section 13, soil erosion and sediment control. The purpose, the town council hereby finds that excessive quantities of soil are eroding from certain areas that are undergoing development for non-agricultural uses. And you can read this whole thing, the result sediment clogs the storm sewers, road ditches, muddy streams, leaves deposits. The compliance with the requirements as described, okay, will be by the planning board or the zoning board and have final approvals from the building inspector. I, with no disrespect to the new building inspector, I think he has a lot on his plate right now. And I really don't think he's up to date with Union Cemetery. Yeah. There was no determination and there was no application. 50 cubic yards of material, 3-1, 2-4, has no slopes steeper than 10 feet vertical, and then 10 feet vertical and 100 feet horizontal, or approximately 10%. Landfill. The dumping has to stop. Over 100 years of dumping trash does not mean NS 007 is grandfathered in for dumping trash. That belongs in a landfill. The people that have been affected by the flooding of William Street are worried about their wells. Are their wells already contaminated? Should they be responsible for testing their wells? The cemetery officials said they have a 50-year plan. What town official approved it and when? This is what I keep seeing. This is a small dump at the end of the day. And the dumping still continues today. And it's so ironic because there's a photo at the beginning of the cemetery. No pets, no shrubs, no dumping. Wow. Ironic, isn't it? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a representative from Union Cemetery that wants to be heard, sir? Just state your name and your position.
My name is Doug Keene, and I'm president of the North Smithfield, the Union Burial Society, North Smithfield. Gail's presentation left me a little bewildered. She started off talking about the dump site, and then she started talking about different aspects of illegal dumping. I have to admit, we have at least about 2 or 3 episodes of illegal dumping a year. The last one was in November. We filed a police report. They came out, took some pictures. We cleaned it up, brought it to the transfer station on Canal Street, paid to get rid of it. And that's what we do whenever we have any illegal dumping. Like I said, it happens 2 or 3 times a year. Half the stuff everything that she showed you, that the oil tank, which I've never seen, but all those other items are not incorporated into this dump site that we're developing, this burial section that we're developing. If we are notified of stuff, we go out. If we find it, we do clean it up. And if it's egregious enough, then we'll file a police report. As far as the burial sites that we're developing by filling in approximately 25 feet with material, we have a small number of contractors, all from North Smithfield, that are dumping there. They get to dump for free, and they know that, they all know what the requirements are that we allow them to dump there. DEM has been out there at least 4 times in the last few months, but they've been coming out over a 6 to 8 year period because of anonymous complaints. We have never been cited for either what we're dumping or for any wetlands violations. So the dump site is clean. It's what is allowed by DEM to be dumped. It's a cost-effective method for us to be dumping this material. It's good for the contractors in North Smithfield that don't have to pay to get rid of the material. Gail was right that when we first, as we extended this dump site, we put all the stumps and brush and subsoil and made a boundary acting as our silt fence. The building inspector came out. He inspected it, found nothing wrong, but he suggested that we incorporate a rubber silt fence, a regular construction silt fence, to augment what we already have. We did that the next day. So if you walk the silt fence, you see there is no extension of anything flowing past that silt fence. Now, she did show a slide that showed a little bit going by it. I think it went by about 15 feet, but that was prior to putting up the silt fence. That was with our old fence, and it was at the corner where we hadn't put any material. It never extended more than 15 or 20 feet from the silt fence that we've installed. So everything stays on our property. Everything is approved by DEM. We're doing no different as a landowner than any other landowner in North Smithfield that brings in material to improve their site. You know, she mentioned so many things, it's hard to you know, I did take offense to her making an accusation of being yelled at, lied to, and spit at. I mean, that, if anybody that knows me personally knows that I am not going to treat anybody that way. And I'm pretty much the main employee there. The guys that are new are firefighters in town that are working part-time for me. They're all respectable. They're officers on the fire department. They would never do it either. So that I was very concerned about. As far as the noise of the trucks, we go a week. I've seen a week to 2 weeks go by where not one single truck goes in there. Because we're keeping it a small number, only 5 contractors, sometimes they'll come in 3 times in one day, but then we won't see them again for 2 weeks. So the noise issue is sporadic, and not everybody slams their tailgate when they dump, but we are a significant distance from William Street. It's got to be muffled tremendously after going through 300 feet of forest before it gets to the closest house on William Street. I don't know. That's like I said. I tried to write down all of her issues. That's the main thing. We've been cleared by DEM multiple times. We're not violating any wetlands. The fill is clean and it's providing a public service to North Smithfield. When we finally have the section filled in with this construction material, the dirt, the rocks, and the asphalt and the concrete, we'll top it up with 8 feet of clean fill that will allow for a burial. And we'll be selling that for the next 40 or 50 years. We'll have a foot of loom to grow grass on top. It perpetuates the ability of the cemetery to stay in business for the next 40 or 50 years. With so many cemeteries that are overgrown and they've run out of money, it's because they've run out of land for the major issue for them is that they've run out of land to sell. So we're hoping that we can be proactive, get ahead of this, not have Union Cemetery end up like a lot of these overgrown cemeteries, and just continue to provide the service that we do to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on this issue? Could we have the building inspector, sir, can I just get you a little insight on this?
Good evening. You guys have specific questions, or?
Well, you visited the site?
Oh, I've been to the site multiple times, yes.
Have you found any violations that you?
I've been there. I've met with a gentleman, Mr. Lawton, from Department of Environmental Management on site. I've talked to the wetland biologist from DEM, who's also visited the site with one of their colleagues. They've looked at the type of dumping and the type of material that have been there at the time they've been out there, and Mr. Lawton's been there a number of times over the few years. He's found zero reason to have any kind of problem with what's going on there. He did see a couple of pieces of rebar inside the concrete. He's made mention to Mr. Keene at the site to make sure that anything that gets dumped there should not be any kind of concrete or materials with steel in it. So he's made sure that he's told his contractors again to supposedly not dump any of that there. You know, we had some discussion at the last meeting with Mr. Lawton and Mr. Keene, and we've talked about the actual possibly looking with Mr. Rabideau, who's going to come out there and possibly double check everything, make sure that there is no wetland violation and he's not with encroachment, but it does not appear that they're anywhere near the encroachment of the wetlands at this time, according to DEM. And they're going to set up some sort of possible buffer to make sure that nothing does infiltrate the area and keep it well outside of that buffer. As for the zoning articles that there been some discussion on, you know, it's not really trash and refuge, in my opinion. It's more of clean fill from what DEM states is clean fill, which is, you know, crushed up and broken concrete, asphalt material, things of that nature that come from common construction, as long as it's not incorporated with any kind of, you know, large amounts of trash, debris, anything like that. And I did not see any, or I didn't see anything the times I've been out there. So I don't know really what else or other kind of questions you may have.
I think that covered it. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, and what year did they start filling in that area? 50s, in the 50s?
I mean, unfortunately, I've only been here for a matter of about 2.5 months, I believe, and I'm trying to understand a whole lot of different things within the town, and I don't know that answer.
Gail?
2018.
All right, because all that part was where my dad grew up on Greenville Road, way at the beginning, which was the area where the beef farm was. And when he brought us to his territory, when we moved back into this area as children, that didn't look like that. I mean, I was trying to figure out, where's this place? And I think we buried him very high so he could look out of the area that he played as a child. And the concrete that's being put there, you know, there's a lot of areas that they did put fill. Where I live is one. And I don't know how they filled, but I had to take down the garage, it sank. And I'm way up towards Smithfield Road. So as time goes on, I don't know if regulation or techniques have changed since they began, but I'd like to see, is there a type of update that different cities and towns are using in, quote, considering clear fit? Because I'm looking at this, and it makes me a little hesitant. And as far as the Keens are concerned, anything you do as if it was for yourself. That, really, it's not, I'm questioning, is there a better way? Because I'll tell you, I had a beautiful garage, and this little router gonna fix it. It was on 2 cornerstones, and 15 feet down was coal or something. So I had to take a whole garage down. And there's others on the Summit and White Parkway area that they can't park in those garages. And the garages are tilting because, you know, the original farmhouse was on sturdy land, but some of the fill, other garages are, they're either gonna go down a hill or just sink completely with their cars. So I don't know if there's any new techniques, Mr. Keene. You know, if we can do something even better, I'd like to, because I like to think whatever we do, we'll find out the best way to do it. And if I know the Keenes, they will. Thank you.
Just one comment.
Go ahead.
It wasn't Mr. Keene that swore and spit at me. It was someone who was working for him and told me that he was the foreman of Union Cemetery. I know who he is. He also took a picture of his license plate. I should have called the police that day, but I was so upset that I got spit on and yelled at. And like, if these people are doing this to me and not respecting me, what are they gonna do to respect the land that they're dumping on? They don't care. And Mr. Keene's not there 24/7.
Okay, right, okay.
You know?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Okay, as I said, no votes are going to be taken. We're not going to litigate this. We're not going to, it was just an opportunity for both sides to be heard publicly. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Is Virginia Hightower here? For the fireworks? Okay, I'm sorry. I should have gone to this before that, but I wouldn't have kept you waiting. So we're going to do that right now. Sir, if you want to come up. Discussion by council vote of the action on request for fireworks license for America American Promotional Events, DBA TNT Fireworks, located at location 7 Dowling Village Boulevard, at the Walmart. I saw you got your application right here. Everything seems to be in order.
My name is Kent McLaughlin. By the way, I don't know if you need that information, but if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer whatever those might be.
Does anybody have any questions?
Don't we already have a firework set up to sell things up in that area?
No.
None, with
no.
just the
We
center
We
town?
approved the one at 900 Victory Highway.
Okay.
this
And
is-
it's off
this-
the main highway also, correct?
Yep, this is far off the highway.
Okay.
Parking is not an issue.
Remember, there was the one that we didn't approve that was on,
That was at the Park Square Liquors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a parking issue, really.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not enough room.
okay, just want to make sure.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vadenais?
make a motion that we approve a holiday sales license for TNT Fireworks to be located at 7 Dowling Village Boulevard. Hours of operation are 9 to 9, but he's going to start on 6:20 to 7:05. All sign-offs are complete.
Second that motion?
We have a second by Ms. O'Hara. Mrs. O'Hara, any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, all set, sir.
Thank you, Counsel. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Okay, start back up from the top then. Discussion by council vote of action on municipal building review task force. Mr. Nordstrom is not here. Ms. Vadenais, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll give you, we're trying to schedule a meeting right now to get together with the task force so we can discuss coming forward to the council with a recommendation on what you need to do to continue to use that building safely. Get direction from you to go forward, what you want to see us get pricing on and whatnot. Roofing, siding, windows, the number of issues. We're going to discuss it, and we'll come back to you with a report of what we suggest you do, and you'll give us direction to go from there. But yes, we understand that we can't sit on that building and do nothing. We know that there are issues that need to be addressed. We'll have a list for you after we have our meeting. We're trying to set something up in the next week or so, now that we're waiting to see how the economy goes.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions, Mr. Vadenais, regarding the building? Thank you. Discussion by council vote of the action on update of Halliwell Review Committee. Mr. Corriveau.
Thank you. I'll make this pretty quick. We met last Thursday, and we discussed community partnerships in the sense of within the town itself. So we heard from various committees and some departments within the town. The ones we did hear from was the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, the North Smithfield Public Library, Parks and Rec. We also met with the Community Garden. Conservation Commission was invited, but they didn't attend. But that kind of, in some ways, fell under Parks and Rec. The Public Arts Advisory Committee. And really the purpose of meeting with these community partnerships or committees or advisory boards was to get an idea. You know, when we went out and hired Weston and Sampson and they did the public charrette, that gave us more of an idea of what the town residents wanted and what they necessarily were looking for at the Halliwell property. We also thought it was important to reach out to the various committees, some departments, to get an idea of what they would want or what could help them at the Halliwell property. Again, not committing to anything, but obviously going through that discovery process. And then the second thing that we discussed again was the Class 1 survey, which would be the wetlands delineation, getting the flagging done there. And we just discussed approximately, what target price would be by going through the master price agreement. We discussed a few other things, one of which Jeff already brought up during the public forum. So that's all we discussed. Any questions?
Any questions? I have more of a comment. I was at the, at the committee meeting, the Halliwell committee meeting, last Thursday. And I did make, I got up and I spoke, and I just want to reiterate what I said was, under the best of conditions, we're a few years away, under the best of conditions, from putting up a building. Now with the economy the way it is, with inflation the way it is, that's probably even kicked out even further, a few more years beyond that. What I would like to see, yes, keep doing what you're doing, working, and you're doing a great job, and you got the right idea, but I think that we should see a short-term plan as well. Like, the number one thing we gotta do is level out those buildings. We gotta clean out those buildings, and once we do that, there's gonna be a lot of land there. I'd like to, maybe a short-term plan of what can we do on an outdoor basis, you know, without a building? Can we do something where the courts are? Can we can we do the trails? Can we do something at a less expense without putting up a building and utilize the property most effectively?
And I agree with that. I think that we are headed down a road where things are gonna get a little bit tight, and we kind of have to not second guess, but think things through a little bit differently. But I would be mindful that in order to have access to certain grants, even if they fall under recreation and open space, we still need to have some sort of plan in place to present to them.
Right, not against that at all.
Right.
It's not what I'm saying, but they could maybe have a two-prong approach.
Right, right.
You know, a long-term plan and a short-term plan to use the land that's, because once those buildings are down, there's gonna be a lot of land up there.
Right, right.
And it's still gonna be a long time before we're able to put another building up there. So what can we do in the meantime with that property? That's what I'd like to see, maybe a two-prong approach that way.
Right, I think most open spaces, if it's done right, they will have a 2, 3, or 4 phase approach. So I don't think the committee is looking at going all the way to the finish line, but at least looking and saying, okay, what does this roadmap actually look like? And maybe we stop at mile 1 in a 26-mile race. You know, so but I think that we need to at least look at the possibility of what does that overall scope look like, and maybe we just focus on the first 2 phases. But I agree.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Thanks for the update. Discussion by council vote of the action on approval of proposed change order contract with Stantec to engineer and rehab of Comstock water tower and demolition of unused tanks on Comstock Road and Country Way. Mr. Zwolenski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you is a proposal to move forward with this. I believe it was in June of 2021. Town Council approved the motion to engage Stantec, and that was $54,000 was spent to do a pre-design summary, which we have. And now at this point, what's being asked the council is to approve to move forward to continue with Stantec and to do the engineering, to set up the bid specs, and to oversee the project, which should be done. I think everyone is aware that since 2017 and 2019, there were minor issues with the tank. It did not affect the quality of the water, but I think as a needs to be done, it's maintenance. I should leave it at that. So grand total would be $228,500, and that's coming from the American Rescue Plan Act. We already have some of that money. Currently, we have $1.8 million. We're expecting 2 other tranches to come in, which would bring the amount to $3.6 million. At this point, it's estimated to be a $3.3 million rehab of the tanks, to remove some tanks, one on Country and Ridge, and another tank that's up there on Comstock as well. Also to look at increasing a pump to, bringing in a pump to increase water pressure to provide better service. So at this point, according to the engineers, estimate would be $3.3 million. That includes this $228,000 engineering reports. So that's what's before you. I hope that council will see fit to approve this and authorize me to move forward with this.
So you're looking for the approval of the $228,500.
Yes.
Any questions for the
No,
administrator?
no, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
We're only looking at a change order, if
Yes,
I'm not mistaken.
$174,000.
Okay.
We've already approved it, we've already approved
Yeah.
the 54.5.
But the total is 228, Mr.
I
President.
got you, okay.
Mr. President, I
Ms.
make a
Vadenais.
motion that we approve the change order totaling $174,000 to Stantec Counseling Services for the water tower run, Comstock rehabilitation.
That's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Corriveau. Any questions or comments?
Just under discussion, why are we taking that tank down on Country Way?
Because it's been inoperable now, it's been sitting there for, I don't know how, before I was actively engaged in town. Taking it down, why we have the APRA money to get it, hopefully we can do this, if we have money to do it. And maybe envisioning a small park there for the neighbors to enjoy.
It wouldn't make,
That's way down the road.
it wouldn't make sense to keep it as a spare, as a storage tank?
No, according to the water superintendent, no, it would not make sense to keep that, nor the tank that's over, the other tank that's on.
I understand the other tank predates my time in the town. That's a fairly new tank in regards to water towers, water tanks.
19, do you recall when that was?
Early 80s maybe,
80s,
when it
okay.
was put up, and so it's not really, and I just wonder, is it worth leaving there as for storage? And the other question that I had was, are we ready to award I know they're gonna do the design and get the bid spec ready. Are we ready to begin this project?
I
Or are we gonna
believe,
wait till we have all of the money?
I would caution that we wait till we have all the money, but we get the bid specs ready to go to launch when, there's gonna be a lot of money chasing few contractors out there, so I wanna get out ahead of this if we can. So,
Well, that's why I ask, can we get it going? Do we have, I guess the question is, what sense of assurance do we have that we're gonna get all of that APRA money that
we have the assurance of the United States federal government.
I'll sleep good
Oh,
tonight.
God.
I didn't think that was funny.
Mr. Keene, who has knowledge of all things historical in this town, did you want to clarify something?
So that tank and Country Way replaced a wooden tank?
Wooden tank.
At Lund's Lumberyard.
Right. So that tank, well, those two tanks service the Slatersville water system before it combined.
Before we
with
tied in on,
the
right.
Industrial park water system. So the two tanks, couple million gallons?
500,000 on the silver one that's on Comstock, and this one, I can't recall. the
Over 1 million gallons in
And
the
the
one that
green
we're
one?
rehabbing.
Yeah.
Oh, the one we're rehabbing, yes.
So the storage capacity in the industrial park was substantially more than what we were getting for the Slatersville.
Yeah, but I just felt it would make sense as a backup rather than pay to take it down. If it was good, leave it there and use it as a backup storage.
The other thing to consider, if we, I'm a firm believer in redundancy, but one has to pose the question, what about maintaining it? So then it would be faced that, should we need to use that in the future? It's not like we can just go out and fill it with water. It would have to be all sandblasted inside, covered with enamel paint, brought up to spec. And who knows what that would cost in the future. So I do like redundancy, but I believe the tank should be taken down, and we could utilize that property to the benefits of the town. Maybe a small park where family can take their little ones to run around, and don't forget, the land over there is gonna have to be checked out for any potential environmental questions as well. So I just would recommend that we move forward. Should we have sufficient funding to take that down? Now, if you had to make a choice between two tanks, the silver one up on Comstock and the green one on Ridge and Country Way, I would recommend we take down the green one on Country Way, because it's intrusive, it's in a neighborhood.
Wasn't that corrected in the 70s, early 70s or something? Wasn't it around that
I
time?
thought it was the 70s.
I think it's the 70s, because they had a problem in that neighborhood, and I think that was,
It was after the blizzard of '78.
oh, that's 70s.
Oh, it was after
close
70,
enough.
okay, so
Close,
end of 70s, early 80s.
yeah. Because a lot of people weren't happy about that thing. That I remember.
Anything
I'll
else?
let you do people on that.
We already have a motion and a second on this. Joanne, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. President, I also make a motion that we authorize the administrator to sign said change order.
We have a motion and a second advising, allowing the administrator to sign. And we also have a second on that. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 You know, it's funny because I had called the clerk last week and asked her if we could get an update on Stantec, and she said it's on the agenda. So I was looking for an update to see where we were going with that.
Okay, perfect.
Now we know.
Discussion by council, what other action on parking on Providence Pike at the athletic field? Ms. Vadenais, you requested this on the agenda?
Yeah, that was something that we talked about, I don't know, 3 meetings ago maybe, and I had asked about it, and we were supposed to have the chief come to a meeting, and it didn't make the last agenda. The issue's not going away. I mean, there's no parking from the fence out to the road, and if we're not enforcing it, shame on us. We've already had a serious injury up there. It's gonna happen again if you continue to let people park like that. There's more than enough parking in the parking lots for any event that's going on over there. Do they have to walk? Yep, they're gonna have to walk a little bit.
And
Go to any other facility, big athletic facility like that, and people walk to it. There's no parking right there at the facility. They park at the main buildings and they walk to them. There's plenty of lighted paths, there's ADA handicap paths that we have to put in. There's no reason that we should be allowing them to park on the street. They can't park on either side of the street over there. And so it's something that I think that we need to look at and enforce. And I know that Ms. Alves added on to that she was looking at traffic issues as speeding and whatnot as well up there.
Mr. Harris, do you want to say something?
Yeah, and throughout the town, and I can't remember it ever being enforced, people are parking on highways in setbacks in the road or in the 6 foot, is it 6 feet pull setback from curbing in or 8?
Councilwoman, that's a state road, and they have what's called varying widths of right-of-way and we could call it setback. So I believe, I'm going to guesstimate, but on our town roads, roads, we have a 10-foot right-of-way. But again, the Rhode Island highways, because of the size and length of them, they have varying setback right-of-ways.
Well, people are buying homes, extending their driveway right to the curving to the street, putting flowers. So now I see children, women with carriages in the road because they've taken over. One at the end of Woonsocket Hill Road actually took out the grass, put crushed stone and a fence so they have extra parking. So again, people are parking in the road. And it's all over.
Woonsocket Hill Road is a town road. If you want to provide
No, I mean, at the end, that would be Great Road.
State Road.
It's all the way up. You can see it on both sides. So they're taking over that, and, you know, I remember in that area, a young girl got killed walking her dog with her mom on a Sunday morning. And, you know, like you said, we have laws, but they're not being enforced. And it's a danger. Kids should not be walking because of the speed in the road so that cars can park on setbacks.
Councilwoman, if you want to provide me with the address, I will reach out to Rhode Island Department of Transportation.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to do that.
But the issue on Providence Pike, it's clearly marked, no
We're
parking.
moving back to Providence Pike, yeah.
And there's no, and that's my issue. It's clearly marked, no parking. If there are no signs that say no parking, you can park off the road. School Street has no parking from Colonial Village all the way up on one side of the street, or maybe both sides of the street now. But there's no parking. It's clearly marked. There are signs all the way up. Providence Pike, it's marked all the way up, no parking. Yet you go to an event that's there, and they're all parked there. And in some cases, I know that the police are there because they're there doing a detail. It's like, and you don't see this? And so we need to do something because it's gonna create a problem one day, another problem again.
I'll be honest, as I understand, I agree there should not be any parking across the street from the field, but I really don't have a problem if people want to park on the grass, if they're in a special event, that if they want to use that there's a big area of grass on the side of the road. I don't have a problem with people going to see their kids at the field or whatever, or going to play themselves, use parking over there. I really don't.
The town owns where the fence is. The fence is on the line. We don't own anything outside the fence. It's all part of the state thing, and you're parking off on that road, on the side of the road. It doesn't matter if you're still parking, there's no parking on that side of the road, on either side of the road.
Yeah, I would hate to see people that are going to an event, going to watch a game, start getting whacked with tickets because they're
Then
parked.
park in the parking lots. There's plenty of space. There's 600 and something parking spaces in those lots down there.
Yeah. I totally agree, no parking across the street from where the field is, but where the grass is, I don't know.
That's even more of a hazard where the grass is.
Yeah.
We've seen it already. We've seen it. It's happened.
Well, where there was an accident was when somebody stepped off the bus, but the bus was parked
No,
across the
no.
street.
They walked between cars that were parked on the street. They walked between them into the road, and then they got hit. One of them was a bus.
Both of you are correct. Someone stepped out in front of a bus
Right.
and got hit by a car.
But the
When
bus
the
was
bus
no...
was on the other side of the street.
I believe the bus was on the
It was
side
all
of
on
the
that
field.
side it was the same side as the field. It was just a matter of, the bus was in place of a car, and they walked between two cars into a street. And the street isn't well lit over there, and it doesn't need to be. It's
Yeah.
just, it creates an issue that there is no reason to. There's plenty of parking. We provided for it. We had to, as part of the whole plan. And I get it, the parking lot is closed right now as they're undergoing construction. That'll go away pretty soon. Park at the middle school, park at the high school, walk. You'll see it when your fireworks thing. There should be no parking up there.
Yeah. Well, I understand that, but I wouldn't want to see people start getting ticketed for parking up there, that's all.
Could the police department put up just like wooden barricades along there?
It's a state road, it's marked. There are
So
signs
like-
like every 20 feet.
Yeah, I know, but clearly that's not working. Could we put barricades there, space them out 10 feet or whatever?
Counsel, I'm sure that it can be accomplished to put barricades out, but now you're talking about human labor, hours to put them out, retrieve them. And then you're endangering the public works people, putting the barrels out over there. So it comes down to an enforcement issue. Signs are there, and if the council wishes to change those signs, either take them down and allow parking over there on that one side, or wishes to enforce it, let me know. I'll be happy to make
We'll have to
sure.
go back to the state and ask them to take it down, because we had to petition the state to get them up.
So it'll be a decision of the council. Do you want to remove the no parking signs or retain the no parking signs? If you retain the no parking signs, then of course the chief would be, he will certainly accommodate and put details out there to, do we ticket residents? I think our residents would know. It'd be visiting folks that would be coming in and not knowing it, and enforcement being what it is. Maybe their communities don't enforce it. I mean, if you go to Barry Field on any event, it's just a circus over there. Whatever the council wishes, tell me, and we'll.
Maybe we could put signs actually on our fence, on the school's fence, that says no parking, so when they drive in, it's clearly marked.
Well, it's what you decide tonight. I'll be happy to facilitate for you.
I think it needs to stay no parking.
I'm not saying we should take the signs down, but I'm just saying the enforcement, when there's an event, shouldn't be as strict and start whacking people with tickets. I don't want to see residents that are going to a game, going to show supports for their kids, or I just don't want to see people start getting hit with tickets because they're parked on the grass. I don't want to see that happen.
Well, they're not parking there when there's no events. That's what it's happening. And somehow we've got to educate them and let them know. And, whether you make an announcement on the thing saying, hey, if you're parked outside the fence, move them, and you got 20 minutes to move it, or we're going to, it's something, but you've got to do something to address the issue.
Okay.
Mr. President, here's the audience.
Doug?
Yeah, you want to go to the podium?
Sure.
Yeah, you deal with some of this.
Douglas Oja, 1984, Providence, Pike. I live like 3 or 4 houses down, up the road from the middle school field. And I will say, I run all the time, and I run a lot when there's events going on and all that. And I don't have a problem personally with people parking there, but there is a lot of people that don't pay attention, and they do force you into the road. And what's dangerous about that area is you're coming downhill a lot of the time. So there's definitely been an increase in tractor trailers and other things, other large-scale trucks. So I do think that the no parking should be there. Maybe one alternative would be is to, if you have a large event, you need to have a police detail, and then the police detail can kind of help educate or direct the traffic a little better. But I do think that it becomes an issue when you start parking 2 or 3 wide, which sometimes they do, or they'll pull in diagonally, then people will double park, and then you're kind of all stuck there. So I definitely think it's an issue that needs addressing. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Mr. Vadenais, did you want to do anything further, or just discuss this, or do you want to make a motion or anything?
Well, no, I had brought it up, and I addressed it to the administrator, the public safety director, and he said, well, we'll have the chief come, but then it fell through the cracks, so I just asked to put it back on.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it was in the minutes of the meeting, but it didn't make the next agenda, so. If we can just look into it, let the chief know that we'd like to see him, you know, maybe that's the right thing, is that you've got a detail out there and you see people, you can tell them right off the bat, move, move, move.
Okay, so that brings up another question. If we're going to have a detail out there, funding would come from where? From the event itself?
The event itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or someone could petition the council to potentially, I guess you couldn't do that. I can stay.
I
I would look at it as part of the cost. We have no say in this, it's just my opinion, we have no say in the fees that they wanna use, charge to the field and whatnot, but they need to provide detailed service for some of those events, they need to provide people to make sure the field is taken care of, insurance and all, you know, there's a whole list of things they have to go through, I know I have to do it when I do my car show, so there's a whole list of things, and the person using the field or the event is responsible for all of that stuff.
So renting of the field, there is a fee, so we'd have an additional fee to pay for the detail. It should work.
If that's what, you know, if that's what, I think that if they don't want to enforce it, that's the easiest way to do it then, and like Mr. Ogier said, is put a detail there at the beginning, and as people come in, you just tell them, no parking, and eventually they'll learn. And if they want to park thereafter, then whack them.
So another thing that you'll see on the budget for the police department capital is storyboards that give the
Signage,
message.
yep.
That could be parked there before the event start, no parking on both sides of the road.
Yep.
And then at that point, I think if someone does not pay attention to that, then they should be given a traffic ticket, a parking violation. But again, council, tell me what you want me to do. I'll be happy to do it.
I like that idea.
Well, you gotta, once you vote and tell me what you want.
Work with the chief in potentially like putting up a sign like that, putting out their mobile sign, and see how that works.
We'll see how the budget goes, because our sign is broken, so we get a new sign. It's not gonna happen overnight.
Okay.
But, yeah, be happy to do that.
For the record, I don't want them parking across the street, but I could care less if they park in the grass. I don't think it's a big deal. But anyway, let's move on.
Well, can I get a consensus from the council then?
Well, no, we're not gonna, I'm not gonna call a vote on it. There's no,
Okay.
but did you want to call a vote?
No, I was just trying to bring it up for attention.
Oh, I get
So
it.
that it can be addressed, but in the grass is parking on that side of the street. That's what you need to understand, where you don't have a problem with. They're still parking on that side of the street. It's not allowed.
So, I don't want to sound and be redundant here.
No.
But there are signs up, put up by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. It affects when we have events there. Certainly, it can be enforced. If the majority of council, again, we could build a cost into renting of the field for the event to cover the detail. We can use the storyboards that go, I'm calling them storyboard, forgive me, the message boards. We can do that. But I just want to make sure that 3 out of the 5 council members who want me to do these things. I mean, do you want me to just do it as a public safety director? Say yes, and I'll take care of it.
Yes.
Done.
That was my original request a month ago.
Okay, done.
I look at it like giving tickets for going 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit. We're really gonna start doing that? This is it's a minor thing, but if you wanna, you are the public safety director, if you wanna enforce no parking at the field.
Well, to be honest with you, Mr. Beauregard, my name was put on it in 2 different places, $1 million lawsuit. My name was on it in 2 different places.
Okay.
So that's why
We're
it's,
not gonna go, we can't
that's why it's
really
kind
start
of
going into
near
the
and
ordinance.
dear to me. I don't want to see anyone else have to go through that.
All right, let's move on. What do we got left here? D, right? New business D? Oh, of course, I'm sorry.
How are we gonna run the town?
No, we're gonna move back up then. I apologize. Presentation of Budget Committee's proposed 2022-2023 budget. Mr. Ogier, thank you for your patience.
All right, at first I just want to thank the members of the Budget Committee. We've been working really hard over the last few months, and, I think we put together a really good budget and recommendations for you guys to review. I'm going to read the memo that we had written, just so that it's out there. But I think overall, it's very conservative, but it also meets the needs of funding the town as well. So the Budget Committee has completed the preparation of the town's fiscal year 2023 budget recommendations. The proposed fiscal year 2023 budget increases are conservative and take into account pre-pandemic history of expenditures and revenue. The Budget Committee is aware of the continued inflationary pressures on homeowners and made every effort to minimize the economic impact on taxpayers while still funding the necessary resources for the effective operation of the town in the best interest of the community. The committee also considered the long-term impacts of funding certain projects and departments. And the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget reflects an $832,369 or 1.75% increase over the fiscal year 2022 budget. The next, on the memo, the next portion that you will see is kind of call-outs in terms of what the proposed increases would be for 2023. As you can see in there, a lot of them are related to contractual agreements that have already been put in place, or certain capital projects that are already in there that have been in the works for a few years. There's also rubbish collection, the police and fire departments to take into account for fuel increases, pay increases through contract negotiations, etc. You will notice that there are 2 new accounts, land acquisition and preservation, and economic development as well, to increase the economic development efforts. The proposed levy increases calculates to 1.8% zero, not finalized. And among the proposed changes in this year's budget, the Budget Committee supports the hiring of a grant writer on a consultatory basis. The committee realized that in doing so, the town would benefit as the position would help raise funds in support of various capital improvement projects across numerous departments. And through our deliberations, we saw a huge need in this area, in multiple areas. Almost every department, committees, you name it, there was almost a need for a grant, and we thought that this would be a good use of town dollars, and the position would ultimately also fund itself. The committee is also proposing 2 new accounts, land acquisition and preservation and economic development. The land acquisition and preservation restricted account would be used to help the town fund future land purchases along with maintaining existing town-held land, and the newly proposed line item to fund economic development is designed to attract, promote, and support new commercial taxpayers, resulting in an increase in the commercial tax base to ease the tax burden on the residential taxpayer. Due to the uncertainty of ongoing contractual negotiations, the committee provided for a 2.5% increase for those pending contracts, police and fire, as well as non-union employees. This was done to avoid increases to the contingency fund due to possible outcomes of ongoing contract negotiations. Per the school department's budget presentation, the school department was successful in obtaining ESSA funds. These funds enabled them to provide necessary support and enrichment services to students and staff, as well as enhance the health and safety of the school's facilities and grounds. The committee considered the additional state aid received by the school department of $37,711 in fiscal year 2022 when considering the school department budget for FY '23, and the budget committee ultimately agreed with the town administrator's recommendation on the town appropriated amounts. The budget committee's proposed budget is approximately $329,262 lower than the town administrator's budget of approximately $48,612,194. The significant difference between the budget committee and town administrator's budget is attributed to the following, and all represent decreases from the town administrator's budget. Fund balance restoration and contingency, we removed $300,000 from that, and planning capital for Halliwell, $60,000. As noted above, the proposed budget incorporates standardized salary increases across departments, shifting funds out of the contingency for this purpose and level funding the remaining contingency based on historical amounts. There was no desire to increase the contingency and add undue burden to taxpayers, as we expect they will already face financial impacts resulting from the revaluation. The line item related to Halliwell was reduced by $60,000 due to uncertainty surrounding the use of Halliwell space and the potential partnership with an outside organization and possible external funding sources. And when it came to Halliwell, we looked at multiple capital projects currently undergoing in the town or in the works to be undergoing. We know that there's the police station, which seems to have been front and center over the last few years. We know that there's still the Pacheco Park entrance. We know that Halliwell is still on the back burner, moving along at a pretty quick pace. And that there is a large cost to maintain those buildings. Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, but Halliwell is roughly $11,000 to $14,000 a year just to sit there. So we took that into consideration. We would like to see kind of things move a little slower in the planning process. Not saying that it's not important. We wholeheartedly support the idea of doing something there. But in terms of what the town can do, just because we can borrow the money doesn't mean that we should necessarily just be borrowing the money right now just to do something, because once you start drawing on that, you've committed to it. And that's just that. We did look at debt levels and we looked at a lot of information to kind of come up with these decisions. And so I just wanted to put that out there as well. We do support it, but we would like to kind of see what's happening there before we just commit a large amount of money. And if anyone has any questions, the committee's here as well. We're happy to answer anything now or later on. Thank you.
So I just had a couple of questions.
Sure.
In some of the revenues that you're projecting, there are some pretty large decreases. What was your thought process on, like, for instance, the tax revenue, municipal court, and then also in the police, there's like I know you dropped it down 15,000 because they haven't even achieved the 31,000 that they've been proposing. So what's in that number that is shortfalling?
So Cynthia, chime in as needed, but we looked at historicals a lot. So we went back to 2017, 18, 19, pre-pandemic, and we compared to what was being done, not just last year, the year before, because we know that those could potentially be outlier years. And we looked to make the revenue estimates more in line with what we would have anticipated to receive during that time period. And Cynthia, was it, the numbers were maybe a little, I don't want to say inflated, but.
We went a little bit more conservative on some of the items. We did look historically pre-pandemic. Yes, and post. So they took into account several years to come up with those numbers, but it was basically historical, a lot of the historical numbers.
And we looked at where they were now, and if we thought that they were close and that then by reducing it, it would cause an impact to revenue, then we didn't touch the number. If anything, we would have increased it.
So do you know what that $15,000 sway is in the police receipts? Like, what was in the police revenue? They had 31,000 for 22. They have only brought in 11,000. The administrator had 30,000, and then the budget committee 15. So I'm just wondering, what is that 15,000 that they're not capturing that they had said they would capture in this current year's budget?
I can't recall. Yeah, I mean, they only have, the 2,000, is that what you're talking about, the 20,000? They only have 2,000 so far?
No, the police, it says
Yes.
31,000.
Right.
So
And
far, the
altogether,
actual is
right.
11,000.
Yes.
And then the
If you look at
administrator-
most of it's miscellaneous, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
When you figure out revenues for the police department, do you consider detail monies out of that as
No.
well? That's not included in that?
Just the detail admin fee, that's the line above it, where it says detail admin fee, that's right on target. But no, the detail,
Right. That comes in and
this
goes
is
out.
just the admin fee
It's a
that they
pass-through.
get. They only get the admin, well, we only get the admin fee, I should say, not them. But-
We did go into, what has hit these accounts, and we, Cynthia could probably chime in this a little more. We did look at, in terms of what has been charged to that account in the past, and that's why we felt comfortable that there were some things in there that were either maybe one-time items that were hit there that wouldn't be normally carried over every other year, or those types of things, and said, okay, well, if you remove those things and they've only spent $2,000 now, this is where we kind of felt comfortable saying that we're definitely going to hit this. Because the one thing we were very cautious of is we didn't want to fall short in revenue, because we knew the impact that would cause as a whole.
Yeah, because, obviously, year-to-date, this is as of March 31st, they're down, $20,000. So, obviously, that's the right thing to do, bring it down. I was just wondering what that miss is.
Where the 20,000 went?
It's mostly miscellaneous. If you look at if you look at page 1 of 2, under revenue, where it says proposed draft,
Yeah.
it has it broken down. It has accident reports, pistol permits, detail administration fee, miscellaneous. If you look, it was the miscellaneous that was not budgeted correctly this year. And when I look at miscellaneous revenue, it's usually police reports and VIN checks. I can't remember why we budgeted 20,000 last year, but that's really inflated.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. So if I'm understanding this correctly, if I'm looking at the budget previous for the economic development, is this, it was $200 or $500? Is that?
What page are you on, just so I can follow?
So the 2022 adopted budget, if I.
$500.
Page
Right.
1, okay.
So you're proposing going from 500 to 100,000? Is that?
So the 100,000 would be a separate account.
Right.
It would be set up similar to.
So I guess my question is, have you met with the?
Yes, we did meet with, we met with all committees.
And how are they looking to use that, do you know?
So, it's interesting you bring that up, so the economic.
Because I've been a big proponent of that, since I've gotten on since I've gotten on town council. And I think that, we're in such a unique spot in the state of Rhode Island where 146 is so close. And yet, we can, 20-minute drive to Worcester, 20-minute drive to Providence. We can develop commercially without necessarily interfering drastically with the ruralness of the town, like a lot of other towns have done, and they've reaped the benefits of it as a tax reduction for a lot of residents. So I guess my question is, I just want to make sure we're not giving them $100,000 to just sit there like the $500 has sat there for the last 10 years.
Yeah, so there was an account that came up during discussions with the Economic Development Commission. It was supposed to be operated in a similar manner. I forget how much is sitting in there. I think it's like a little over 50,000. We had recommended that the committee comes to you guys to help set up rules or kind of figure out how that money should be accessed and utilized. So what we decided to do was shorter that process because it seems to have stalled out. We took some of the money from the Iron Mine solar project and split it between land acquisition, economic development, and that ultimately the money would sit in a restricted account that you guys could then come up with rules as the council to kind of determine who would get these proceeds, how would they be used, how would they be repaid back, those types of things. Because we realized, and just like many other communities in the state, that the residential taxpayer is kind of being tapped out at the max, and that especially in North Smithfield that we need more commercial development coming in. There's a lot of vacant land sitting out there, so we would hope that some type of program could be developed that would help encourage small business growth as well.
So I guess there's two parts to that, right? You can use the $100,000 to act as a tax incentive for businesses to move in, but you can also use a percentage of that $100,000 to develop the overall commission of the Economic Committee. So for example, there are towns throughout the state of Rhode Island where you go on their Economic Development Commission and they have a dedicated website So one of the things that I had asked for when I came on to town council was a list of all commercial properties, whether the town owned it or not. And it was like, I spoke another language. They'd never even heard of anybody asking for that before. And the reason why I wanted to get an idea of what it was is so that we can see how marketable is our town without even really knowing it. And so personally, I'd like to see the Economic Development Committee take a percentage of those funds and recreate the department to actually make it sustainable, where we could market the town through the Economic Development Commission to all different size businesses, not just giving tax incentives to smaller companies that come to the town. Because that's only going to get us so far. That's not going to actually make a drastic difference.
And Terry was also very vocal on this as well, and I can let her speak if she wants, if she feels comfortable speaking, about why we came up with the Economic Commission, not the Economic account. So you want to come up, Terry?
The one thing is, to kind of dovetail to yours while we wait for Ms. Spagnuolo, when we give out tax breaks to new businesses, or that doesn't come out of this. We're not putting money in place of it. We're just taking less money than they would pay. So Mike, you kind of hit the question before I did. What are we going to do with this 100,000? What is it for? And so.
Okay, so having a small business in town and realizing how much of a burden taxes are on the residential citizen, it's time we bring in small businesses, and we have to get past that NIMBYism, whatever, that you don't want these businesses, but we're spending a lot of money on purchasing open space. We don't maintain the open space because we don't have the manpower. And instead of purchasing all of this open space, we want an incentive to bring a business in. And when we met with, I don't even know how many people are on this committee. It was only Steve Byron.
There's supposed to be 5.
Okay.
May only be 2.
All right. I think there's only 2 or 3. And he wasn't sure what to do with the money. But we would like to see it be an active committee to promote North Smithfield, to bring in those those businesses to help the residents.
So you'd have to go through and create a plan where you would identify
Exactly.
marketable properties, commercial properties, which is what you're saying. You would have to go
Right.
through there and market these commercial properties that we have in town and what would be there.
So I think when the solar farm came into play, we had that extra $2,000 that they were paying. And that revenue, we would like to see promote the town and offset the residential taxpayer. Bring in the businesses, small businesses, I don't know how much larger businesses, but we need some business in town. Because everyone is upset with the revals that they got, but we don't have a new business coming in here. We have it on Industrial Drive, a building for sale. Do we have in planning a business coming in? Are there any businesses coming in? We have a lot of businesses on the highway that are turning into landfill junkyards, but that's not bringing any money in. You had 3 properties that now, One Tree Service owns? We need to do something more. And I think we need to get that committee some guidelines and some direction, whether it be looking at another town and how they're doing it, but we have to do this.
You also have the redevelopment agency, which isn't very active as well.
Excuse me,
So-
we've incorporated those 2 into one.
Well, that's,
Correct.
I don't think we've formally done that, but I know that was the intent, was to put the 2 of them together.
No, I think
It's
the
already
last.
been done.
I'm sorry?
I think it's already been done.
I think it has. I think
Okay.
when I exited from there, we had just finalized it.
So I think it really is up to the council now to sit down with this committee or reach out to other communities and how to make it work. We don't need to turn it into a Mineral Springs Avenue, which Mr. Zwolenski many years ago brought up.
And that's why we have comprehensive plans in the state of Rhode Island.
Right.
Because of Middle Spring Avenue.
but we do need something.
You know, I
We do
think,
need something.
I think a good imagery would be a lot of the smaller sized towns in Massachusetts off of 95 and 128. Many of them, like your Waylands, your Wellesleys, they're tucked away. They still have that quaintness, that ruralness, but yet they draw that commercial business literally right off the highway. And again, where we're right on 146.
Well,
I mean, the reality is, you come up from Providence, you hit 146, you hit the abandoned Cox Cable building. Then you have Majestic Honda, which is empty, which I realize is in Lincoln. You come up 146, we have a roofing company that has dumpsters in the front yard. We then have a tree company that has destroyed the property. The AT&T, which is vacant. On the other side, you've got an empty milk can, you've got a company that stores garbage equipment behind their business.
Yeah.
And then you drive into Mass and you go towards Millbury, and there are all these really nice stores and little plazas where people would actually stop and shop. Grocery stores, anything. But we have this track through North Smithfield, which is a junkyard. It's a junkyard. Right. With the new construction. People could come off of the highway and actually shop or whatever it may be, but now there's another blue building next to the motel that now we're collecting more junk behind there.
Actually, it goes all through 146A to
This is
Pasco.
North Smithfield, a dumpster until you get to the Mass line.
You know, you joke about Mineral Spring. If you go down Mineral Spring now, it actually is starting to look really presentable.
Well, it is.
You know, with a lot of the stuff that they're giving facelifts to, and, you know, I think that
I
we
feel
need
like-
to at least get there before it's too late.
I feel like when you say, no, we don't want you, then you get the bottom of the barrel coming in. You don't have people that want to come in and put up a nice storefront. Why should they put it there?
Terry, we can't. I'll tell you why. Water. There's no water on 146.
Just like we can't put fires out because we don't have water.
That's right. So if there was water on 146, then I think if we got water on 146, it'd be like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
And that's the infrastructure that
talking
you're gonna
to
look for the state
Lincoln?
to do. But the other thing that we have in place that I don't know if you guys are aware of, we started a project that when Tom Kravitz was here, that we got that grant to look at moving the ramp from Pound Hill Road onto 146 north, moving it in so we could get an access road into that huge commercial property in
Industrial
Branch
Park.
Village.
Yes.
To open that up for a nice development too. And I don't know, what you know, it's one of those things, it takes a while to get these things going.
It's going to take a while, and it's going to take millions of dollars, and I think that was hit on. The flyover will help tremendously. Right now, if you're a business person and you're going to be faced with 3 to 4 years of reconstruction of 146, you're saying, I gotta sit back and wait here. Now, Council President brought up a good point about bringing water. Those are discussions that have been initiated. It will require a water Stantec, a tank, a huge tank, like, not that huge, but something similar to Comstock to hold water. And you're gonna have to have pressure. And you'll probably have to, I don't wanna go too deep into this. Town of Lincoln may not have the capacity to supply the water. And if they do, they'd have to go to the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, to bring water to the town. There may be, and I'm not saying, at this point, I'm gonna be quiet. I'm just gonna be quiet.
Yeah, we're
It's
kinda
being
getting,
done.
we're getting
All right, so
getting
it's
off
being-
track.
I
No,
can
we're
say
kinda
it.
getting off track.
He's
on
I
not,
can be
but-
the squeaky wheel
It's
where
being
you
looked
can't.
into.
It's being looked, the water issue on 146 is being looked into.
Okay, all
Yes.
right.
And that would be a game changer up there.
Yes.
Well, it would. It really would, because who wants to come here? The residents do, because we have great schools and it's a nice community, but what business wants to come here? We end up with Dowling Village. Why can't we have Garden City?
Yeah.
Because we allow it. That's why we have it.
Well, we push everyone away.
The reason why Dowling Village was possible is because they got water from Woonsocket. It's
Right.
all about water.
Water
Yeah,
and,
and
water
the
and
water-
sewer.
Water, yeah.
But the water comes from, originally from North Smithfield, that's what's ironic.
The water comes from Woonsocket directly. It doesn't even get metered through North Smithfield. They tied in directly to the Woonsocket water system.
So that's why we were looking to put more money in the economic.
So there's other ways. Our esteemed solicitor whispered, he said, you know, we can do an economic enterprise zone over there if conditions are right. Conditions would need to have water. The highway would, first of all, the water would have to be put in before the highway's built, because you certainly can't build a highway, then rip it up and put in water.
Was that brought up with the powers that be at the state level?
No, we're getting way off.
Yeah, we
we're
gotta
getting
be
way off track
careful.
with the
All right.
budget.
Yeah, we gotta be
But
careful.
I mean, it was a package.
Yeah, thanks, Terry.
Thanks for doing that, truly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
And I think you said what a lot of people thought.
I don't sit there anymore. Just say it.
Yeah, so that's ultimately why it was created. That to also help kickstart that, while also meeting the residents' needs as well.
Third-party revenues.
Huh?
Third-party billing revenues.
Yeah.
What are we totaling now? Do we have an idea?
Cynthia will have probably an up-to-date number. Sorry to put you on the spot.
You should know this.
Yeah. Third-party billing.
Third-party billing revenues, total. Not what we're spending in the budget. What is the total revenues that we're getting?
Whenever you last have it.
June. As of the end of May, we've collected $223,796
Two-
times 2. Because half of it goes into Fund 20 and half.
No. My question is, I want to know the total revenues, not where it goes. I can follow that. I want to know what our total revenues from third-party billing is.
223,000 times 2. What is that?
Okay. For 46, as of May. Okay. I know where it goes. I wanted to know what our total was. I know how we're spending some of it, but I don't know that that equates to our total amount. Huh? I know. We don't have any answers on school and state aid, do we?
The last update, no?
And from what I'm reading, the state still isn't ready to do a budget yet. And so there's $11 million of our $48 million budget. And so it makes me a little bit nervous that I'm not knowing where we're going with that.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time looking at that number and asking for updates as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crapshoot. You got to guesstimate. I know, I've been there
Yeah.
from all three sides now. I had a question on the fire department, but you answered that by you kind of hedging a bet by putting money in there. The municipal court, I had a question on the revenues on that we were budgeting 40. We've actually taken in 65, almost 66, and we're still only budgeting 40. Is there a reason that we're not budgeting more money on that?
I think, I'm pretty sure, the assistant finance director had reached out to them. This was an extraordinary year. It was post-pandemic, so municipal court is up and kicking. We don't expect that to be all the time. So we went back to history.
Yeah, that was,
And
that's what I was gonna say.
we kind of came up with an average based on history.
Yeah, if something did spike higher,
Right.
we looked at it and said, okay, well, what were we
It's
doing
not gonna
leading
be
up?
all the
And
time.
if we had to go back even further than 3 years, we did to kind of
Was it
make sure
something
that it was
created a lot of
similar,
revenue?
correct?
On page 2 of 2 in the revenue, meals and beverage tax. We budgeted 316, we took in 257, and now we're going up to 388. That's like a big increase in,
That comes from the state.
huh?
That number came from the state.
Isn't
Meals and
that,
beverage comes from the state. If you go to
isn't
municipal
that the one,
finance,
isn't that the 1% tax?
it's, yes, but if you go into the municipal finance webpage, the governor's proposed, that's what's in there, we have to use that number. The state looks to make sure we use their state aid numbers. That's the state aid,
That's what they're
basically.
proposing.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So nobody goes out and eat, is the state gonna give us a 300?
I don't know how they come up with the budget,
Okay.
but that comes from the municipal finance side.
It's a big increase over what we had and what we've taken in.
Well, what we've taken in, we're gonna take in more. What we've got budgeted is what we're gonna get from the state, and the state hasn't decreased it. It's
Okay.
just, we haven't received, it's not published yet, it's not posted, we just haven't received it from the state on RIPE, but it
Okay.
doesn't mean that they're giving us less.
Okay, but they're looking at a better than 20% increase?
Yeah, well, they're probably thinking post-pandemic too. People are going out to eat more than they did last year.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in, or are you gonna?
Yep, no, go ahead.
Okay. Can I just ask some questions on some of the expenses?
Sure.
So in some of the departments that really shouldn't incur overtime, why are we budgeting overtime? Like, I can understand the police and like highway and stuff, but like some of the administrative departments, why are we budgeting overtime?
I don't believe the budget committee did not put any
did not.
overtime. Oh, just
There was
payroll,
just yeah, there was a payroll where every now and then there's a holiday, and we had lengthy discussions about this.
But why
Is-
would we budget overtime?
That's,
payroll, we've always budgeted overtime for the payroll clerk. When there's a holiday on a Monday, she does the payroll from home on a Saturday to make sure that, unfortunately, the union contract specifies that everybody gets paid on a Thursday. If we were to move that to a Friday, it would make a world of difference, because in my prior position, in my prior life, the pay date was Friday. So that person had time to come in on Tuesday and do the payroll. Now, if she comes in on Tuesday and does the payroll and does not meet that 2 o'clock deadline, and the police does not get paid on Thursday, we will have a grievance.
So now payroll
So-
is in finance, right?
Right.
Once you pay them,
Okay,
you
so there's
just goes away.
$1,000 budgeted in town clerk overtime.
That's for the Board of Elections.
Board
Is
of
that
Elections.
That's not it.
They already got paid.
I'm sorry, what page?
Page 2 of 9.
9.
Page 4 of 9?
2 of 9.
I'm sorry. 2 of- Yes, that was for, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's for the,
This election, and then I believe everybody else.
everything else we cut.
You
unless
cut,
it
you
was
took out
like
all the overtime.
DPW or police and fire and those types of contractual obligations.
And then some departments, the health insurance increase is really drastic versus some departments. What's the, like, for instance, in finance, you have a $5,400 increase, and then in tax assessor, you have like an $18,000 increase. What's the,
I believe, Cynthia can correct me, but I believe it's head count. Was that the reason? A lot of these things, like utilities, were split by head count. So that's really why you would see such swings in terms of department to department.
Yeah, but she's
Well,
looking at.
unfortunately, and
You're looking at
I'm
healthcare.
sorry.
yeah, I'm
so
looking at health insurance. How
When
can-
I saw that, I'm looking at
Oh,
it,
that's
and
How can
maybe,
one
maybe I'm
department-
wrong.
Excuse me, how can one department go up 18,000? I
Mhm.
mean, how many people are in the tax assessor's office?
If you
There's-
added, if you added a family plan to it as opposed to a single plan.
The previous deputy tax assessor passed away, he didn't have insurance with us.
Mhm.
Now, the new deputy does. So,
Okay.
and that's what happens, like, if we fill a position or turnover, and the person either is a single family, vice versa, doesn't have insurance with us, has insurance with us, that's what usually happens.
So you-
And a family
looked
plan
at-
is about
So you
18,000.
looked at every department and every person and what they would, so
Mhm.
that's how that's budgeted?
Yes,
Okay.
and you'll see some departments that might go less, some
Yeah.
that might go more. Police is all over the place because we have younger officers that are still under their parents' insurance.
Yeah.
And then when they turn 26, they're on ours, and so forth. Some of them are getting married and having kids, and
So in finance, we'll stick with finance, so software and licenses is up 15, but dues and subscriptions is down 14. Is that just something that swapped lines, or? It's on page 3 of 9.
You're looking at professional services?
Software and
I see what you're saying.
licenses and dues and subscriptions. The professional is my next question.
Okay, I'll let you go then.
The subscription change? Let's see.
I'm just wondering if something switched line items or,
There were some instances where that happened,
yeah.
where they would transcribe. Yeah,
We've approved some new software
there was some
recently.
new
Yeah, I'm
software that
just
came on.
wondering if it, but then the next line item goes down, so I'm just wondering, is it just because of a change of
I think that was a
coding?
swap. I think it was, that
That's
was one of
change
those
of
instances
coding?
where
Okay.
something was coded to the wrong line one year, and it got corrected this year.
All right, how about professional services? That went up 40, almost 41,000. What's the increase in there?
I think what might be helpful here is. What? Yeah, I was gonna say, there's detail underneath of these lines. It might be helpful that you guys get the
No, we
detail.
don't have the detail.
You don't?
So you'll
I
send
think-
us that?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna send you
Yeah, I think,
really super big too, because that's really small.
that would be great.
Probably hurt your eyes. But for the public hearing, I have to really, really big, I have every detail, I have everything that you could possibly need.
so like,
And hopefully there won't be a lot of questions.
yeah, so like you'll see like what is hitting professional services in those
Okay.
types of situations.
Yes, but I'm gonna print it for my face.
And then,
The detail sheet is ready, if you wish a copy, you can print it or send it electronically to anyone.
if you can print it so I can just pick it up. And then I just have two more
Yeah,
questions,
because
Cynthia.
we can't print this. You can put it on the screen, but it's still tiny.
And I can't see this.
That's why I get that. You saw me when I came in to do this?
Cynthia, I just have two more questions. The vacation and sick payout under general government has a decrease of like almost 68,000.
What page of what?
Vacation and sick payouts, general government, it's down like 68,000. What's the,
Well, that's a tricky one, because we just never know when people are going to leave us.
right?
But we usually try to predict who's going to retire in the next year,
Yeah,
and then we usually take a patrolman, a general patrolman, we take a general DPW worker, and anybody that we think is gonna possibly retire in the next year or two.
mhm,
And we just come up with a number. Last year, we had, Richatelli in there, which was a big number. And we had, I don't remember who else, but we went over budget this current year. We have to use reserve money.
okay.
So,
When the chief retired, it was a big number.
oh, yes, that was the year before. That was the year that the town clerk retired, right?
Yeah,
And the assistant.
we had a lot of them.
That was a big number too, so we started reserving money for that. But that 74 is just based on like 3 or 4 people that we just guesstimated, really.
So we don't have any,
Retire.
we don't have any confidence in that number, basically.
We just have one person from patrol, one person, I think we even had Carrie in there, because we weren't expecting Carrie to retire till November, so.
Okay. And then the last one is, professional services in general government. That's up, I don't know, I can't see, I think it's like 19,000.
Page 9 of 9.
Terry has a hand up.
8 of 9, yeah.
I do have, I did ask Cynthia to include our minutes, because in the minutes, some of our discussion and rationale as to why we changed things. So that should have been part of your packet to see the minutes.
Okay.
Because as we went through each department, I think that's when we discussed, and we could get some understanding there.
Yeah, you should have every meeting minutes, all the meeting minutes from
Oh, that's grant writer.
grant writer.
We added 20,000 for the grant writer.
Oh, that's grant writer in there?
Grant writer.
And you will see that in the
You'll see
details
that
page as
in the
well. It
details.
rolls
I'll
out.
give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Page 8 of 9 under highway, road repairs. Last year we had 6. The department's looking at 8. The administrator and you guys are saying 6. This is a number that we've been working on, trying to build it year by year. Last year we were looking, actually it was proposed to be reduced and we moved it back up to what it was, so we were level funding it. I think this is something that we need to look at continuing to build to get to that 800,000. So we can't just leave it static as much as we'd like to. It's a number that we need to continually build on to get to a level that we can work at that level. That was the whole thought process as we started going through that. It's been building from 400 to 500. And then last year it was proposed to leave it, to go back to 500 from 6, but we moved it up as a council. And I think that that's something that we need to look at, potentially putting some more money into there than just level funding it, so we can get it up to the level that we need it to be at.
Yeah, I have a different page I was trying to find.
Huh? Really?
Yeah, and to speak
All
to
I
that.
did is told it to print them on bigger pages. I didn't tell it to, page 8 was supposed to still be page 8.
Yeah, so
But-
the one that you're reading off now is our 7.
Okay.
And that was another instance where we looked at historicals as well. Terry and I both were on the council as well, and we knew that it was always 800,000 was the former administrator's goal, and we support that, but, we've seen that it's been 600 or less pretty consistently for a while, so we still thought 600,000 was still a good number for right now, but ideally that number probably should increase, given the road conditions around town. But for this year, with everything going on, the price of fuel and all that, we felt that that was a reasonable number to put for this year.
And then I had a question, and we answered one of them about the economic development, and the other one was land acquisition. Without knowing that we want to buy a piece of land right now, to put 100,000 into there, I think there are other ways that we could fund potential land acquisitions going forward, like a lot of other communities do, and that would be to put a surcharge or a tax on all real estate transfers. A lot of cities and towns do that. It's 0.5%, and it adds up, and you put it into an account, and it stays there, and it builds and builds, and then when a piece of property comes up, the residents aren't paying to purchase this, people that are buying houses are paying for it, as they're coming in, and that's how a lot of communities do it, and it generates a substantial amount of money without impacting.
Is that part of the scheme? Would that be part of the scheme?
Yeah, when they do that, it would be an additional charge for open space or land acquisition. Like Block Island does, I know Block Island does it. There are other places that do that. They put a surcharge on when you on real estate transfer.
How much of a charge?
It's like only like I say only 0.5%, but when it's $500,000, it's not only, but they would.
How they do that, because that goes through the clerk, and isn't it in your system, the fees that you can charge? Like, would that have to go into like a resolution and ordinance or something for the town?
It may, I'm just saying, it's something that we should look at
Yeah.
as a way, if we want to fund purchasing open space without going into our bond, that we have the ability to, and I'm not saying we should.
It's interesting.
If there's land, we don't even know if we're looking to buy a piece of land right now. So as a way of funding it, there are other communities that put like a surcharge or a tax on all land transfers or real estate transfers. And that money is solely dedicated to buying open space. Goes into that restricted account. Just an idea.
I love the idea of open space. I'm a big proponent of it, but I'm not a big proponent of that increasing taxes on people either. So even 0.5%.
But you're doing it right now.
Well, I know that. That's why I think we have the advantage. I think one thing we do have an advantage of right now is there's a storm coming. We can see it coming. And I think now we got to prepare for that. Now we got to prepare for the storm because it's coming.
We looked at other communities as well, such as Block Island and other areas, and, there is complications when, you purchase too much open space, and, that Block Island I want to think is a really good, reliable comparison, just because of the situation that they're in, but, we looked at it and we said, okay, well, we have money that we can use now to help acquire certain lands as they come up, because then the other thing is you could in theory stop funding that account when you needed to, whereas if you're taxing property transfers, you're just going to continue to collect it, and eventually you may run out of property. Depends on what future councils do or how comp plans change over time. The land acquisition, that I know President Beauregard was very vocal about open space over a few meetings, and so looking at that, it allows you to kind of help look at the comp plan and say, okay, there's areas of town that we can really target and really buy up open space, like Smithfield and Lincoln and other communities have done, where they were able to essentially use money that was held along with the grants in other areas to help purchase that. Well, then at the same time, creating the economic account that will allow you to kind of fill in the rest of the town with economic and commercial property as well, so that it's not all just, you know, favoring one side or the other. So we kind of looked at it in totality and figured, how can we allow the council to have and the town to have the right amount of funds to be able to move forward, and not just kind of cycling through the same things over and over.
Buying open space and encouraging economic development are really in conflict, of necessarily have to be in conflict.
If you do it
with one
right,
another.
you can do it
Yeah.
properly.
No, they can work in concert.
I agree.
Yeah.
The one other question I had was election expense. It's going from 19 to 28, almost 29,000.
Which page are you on, so I can back a page?
It's on the Board of Canvassers. Mine is page 3 of 9, yours might be
You
different.
said 3 of 9, so it's probably page 2 of 9.
Comes after the planning department.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to get there, hold on.
Oh, it's the redistricting.
It's 10,000, it's almost a $10,000 increase. And there is no election in this year.
There is,
There's an election in November. but
there's redistricting that also took place
Huh?
this year, the redistricting that also took place.
We're in the process of doing that now.
That has to take place as well. And there will be an election in FY '23.
Yeah, there'll be an election in November.
Right. And on top of the redistricting, there's cost associated with that as well that we look for.
But we had 19 in
There's an
the
election
budget
this
this year that we didn't spend.
I'm gonna, you can see that there was no money spent so far. I think there was work that started in FY '22 that, I don't know if it's been charged yet or what's going on with the account.
I just received an invoice, it was for $10,000, and we budgeted like 15 or something. Redistricting.
Speaker. Okay, but that would be paid out of the 19,000 that we already budgeted.
Correct.
We had 19,000 in the budget this year, we haven't spent anything, so redistricting would have already taken place. And we would have
No,
spent
we
it out
haven't
of the
paid.
19, that's why I'm saying, why are we going up to 28 in the next budget cycle?
We have 2 elections this year also.
Right, but if that $10,000 is an expense for this year, it should hit this budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
why would we be budgeting an extra 10 for next year if that invoice has to hit this year?
We're not. We're not. It's only 2,000. There's 26,000 for just regular election expenses for the 2 elections that we have this year.
Costs
The
26 it
19
costs
that was budgeted
$26,000
last
It
year.
costs $26,000 to have an election,
That's what,
It costs around at least 11,000 for an election.
and there's gonna be 2.
why are there 2?
And then if we had a special.
Why is there
You
2?
could have a primary.
We have the primary and the general election.
You'd have a primary in September and you'd have the general election in November.
And last year, I'm
We also
sorry.
We also put funds away in case there was a special election, because we weren't sure what was going to happen with the police station.
And we did go back on these two, correct me if I'm wrong, Cynthia, we went back and looked at presidential elections too, just to make sure that the
Mhm.
costs were in
We
line,
did.
knowing that there was probably some inflationary costs associated, but we did go back and look at those to make sure that it was reasonable. And yeah, I think it also came up with mail ballot voting, there's additional expense there as well. So we did kind of take into account all those things.
Mhm. It was a tricky year.
Ozier?
So Cynthia?
Yes.
When you send out that, the detail of everything, will that show the salary increases also? Of each department?
It should.
It should, on the comments.
Yeah, you should see, there'll be
Yes.
comments as well. And there's also
Yes.
color coding in terms of what's contractual and really can't be touched at all, and what is kind
Yes.
of able to be touched.
Yes.
But you should see comments, and then also that's why we provided the minutes as well, going back for every meeting where we had a discussion related to the budget, starting after we met with the administrator in late April.
Yes,
Okay.
it will. It'll have the percentages and the comments.
Anybody else? Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.
And thanks to all the Budget Committee, great job. A lot of work.
And there's a public hearing on the budget when?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that. You wanna go over the dates right now that we have going on for the budget?
We advertised the 15th of public hearing.
15th?
Wednesday.
And then the other dates, I don't know.
21st is the regular meeting on Tuesday, 22nd is the budget meeting, and we will be advertising for the 23rd if we have to continue. That's Wednesday and Thursday.
Are those meetings at 6:30, the budget meetings?
We're gonna set the
Public hearing, I put 6:45
Okay,
in the ad.
okay.
on the 15th.
Yes.
And then we have a regular council meeting on the 20th,
21st, Tuesday.
change to the 21st. And then we're gonna set the budget the next night. You won't have state numbers.
Why did we do that?
Why'd we do what?
Why are we having a meeting 3 weeks in a row?
Well, I don't care if we meet, I don't really care if we meet 5 days in a row, but I just don't think we're gonna have the information to set a budget.
Yeah, so what,
I'm leery that the state is not gonna act on this budget until the last week of June. And I don't know where they're gonna go, because they've got a ton of stimulus money, they've got a ton of surplus on top of the regular budget, and they're dealing with all these other issues before they set the budget. And so that's my concern, is that we're gonna try to set a budget without knowing 25% of our revenue.
would you be happier going the next week, the 28th or the 27th?
I mean,
Yes.
That's what we had talked about. You could do that Monday and Tuesday of that week. And the only reason I say to schedule 2 days is because you have to post them. So if we don't finish on that Monday night, we already have it in our pocket. If we finish on Monday night, we don't have to have the meeting. We can't just recess the budget meeting to the next night. We have to post it. And then you gotta hit the 48 hours, so you might as well post 2 days, even if we don't need them.
Don't worry about it, I'll change things.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can go a little later.
So when is it? Monday and Tuesday, the 27th, 28th? Yep. For the budget.
So do you still want it to the 15th, and it's kind of way in advance of that now? You still want it,
It's already been advertised.
okay, stick with it.
Sorry.
All right.
That's a public hearing.
No, the public hearing is okay. You have to have the public hearing,
That's
but,
just so people can talk.
right.
Yeah,
You don't want to set the budget that night either.
That's just so you can hear people talk. I'm sorry. So, give their opinions.
All right, so we'll stick with the public hearing on the 15th,
Yep.
and then we'll go with, on the 27th and 28th
We'll set the budget,
to set the budget.
So,
And meanwhile, we have a meeting on the 20th,
21st.
21st, right? 27, 28,
27, 28, Monday and Tuesday.
if we need the 28th.
So we're not actually having a town council meeting on the 27th, that'll be the first day of the budget, correct?
Well, it's a council meeting, we're setting the budget.
Okay.
It's
all right.
not a regular council meeting, it's just setting the budget.
Nor is it a public hearing, unless we continue it, but it's not likely.
Mr. President, while you're scheduling, just would like you to keep in mind, today the town clerk received an email from Jamie Plume, who's with Rhode Island legislator, to inform us that the two bills that we had before them, Senate Bill 2059 and House Bill 7143, which is act relating to taxation, property subject taxation, veterans exemption, is going before the Finance Committee tomorrow night. So depending on when they vote on this coming out, we will need to have 2 public hearings on that, something to keep in mind. It's anticipated to be approved. Never count your chickens or your eggs, whatever
You
that
need 2 public hearings?
Yeah, I think we do to adopt it into our regulations.
I thought just one, we have first reading and second reading. Two
readings,
readings,
forgive me, yeah.
2 readings, 1 public hearing.
Yeah, 2 readings, forgive me, but that would require two meetings. But that's promising.
Yeah,
It's in finance tomorrow.
I don't see why they would say no.
Any other
It has
budget
nothing to
issues?
do with them, really.
I can't see
It's
why.
it's kind of a courtesy that they approve them. It's like asking for a, binding resolution for a bond or whatever. Normally, they don't deny it. It just takes a while to get it done.
Speaking of the resolution, they requested a copy of the town council's resolution for this, and it was sent over by the deputy tax
Okay.
assessor this afternoon. So as soon as we get it, expedient response to their request.
Mr. Ogier, do you want to add to anything?
We didn't discuss that in terms of revenue side projections, so.
Okay.
I mean, it may not be carrying on for the first year, for this year coming up. Who knows how successful the program will be, but it may be something that maybe the finance director can provide more concrete numbers in terms of what the impact could be. If we're meeting next week.
Okay.
It's gonna be part of the rate. So the impact is about 75,000. I already have.
Yeah, but unless we act on it before we set the budget, it will only take effect the following year. It will be a year that, huh?
I thought it was gonna take effect this year.
Unless we get it back and we vote on it.
If the finance committee goes back to the Senate for them to vote, and they vote yes,
Right.
which we anticipate.
We could have first
That's the
reading
two
in theory on the
readings,
15th, and we
public-
could have,
Yeah,
and on the 21st,
and then it'd
we
be
could.
part of this year's
right.
budget, and the finance director has already figured the impact
Right.
of being roughly
Yeah.
under
Yeah,
$80,000.
yeah, we've seen
It
that.
affects the rate, it doesn't affect the rate, anything but the rate. Like, well, the residential, everything will go up like a penny or two to support that.
Right.
So yeah, it doesn't affect, but it has to be done before we set the rate.
Right.
Before we send it to the printer, before we
Correct.
send it to the state, so.
That's what I'm saying. If we don't get it done before the end of the year, it takes a year before it comes into play.
So just schedule every night in June to be here. That's nothing new, Councilman Vadenais, is it?
Nope. Thank you, Budget Committee, Mr. Ogier, Mrs. Bottomoli, Dominic, thank you very much. I know the job. I've been there.
No, June 15th, June 21st.
It's never easy.
Okay, let's move on. So first of all, I will entertain a motion to accept the Budget Committee's proposed budget.
Mr.
So
President,
moved.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the presentation from the Smithfield Budget Committee for the fiscal year 2022-23 budget.
And we have a second from Ms. O'Hara. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you, Budget Committee.
Okay, just a couple more things on the agenda before we go into executive session. We have new business D. Discussion by council vote of other action on budget transfer and reservation reclass. Mr. Jesus?
Thank you, Mr. President. I am requesting, this is actually to purchase the loader that Mr. Pendergast put in front of you for approval. In the capital, he had, in this year's capital for fiscal '22, he has $90,000 in, for a street sweeper. All we want is to change the description to loader. And in the reservations, in the town council reserves for 2021 capital, he also has $90,000 for a street sweeper. We're just asking to move $13,500 from the description street sweeper to loader.
I don't see the 13 here.
On the back.
It's on there.
Oh, okay.
No, it's two of them. It's two of them.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vadenais?
based on the request from the finance director, I make a motion that we approve the transfer of capital in the highway from the street sweeper to capital in the highway for a front-end loader of $90,000.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a
Just for the-
second?
Just for discussion. Cynthia, why do we even have to identify that we're transferring it if it's capital? We really don't determine what the capital is. We put it in the budget for capital as for certain things, but.
It just for my own, for my own ease.
Okay.
Because it does say sweeper, I want you to be
Yeah,
aware.
We didn't
and
change,
be
we didn't
transparent.
change the account or anything
You're
like
not
that. so
changing
it's
anything,
just-
but I want it in the minutes that
You're just
you
spending
are
capital money
authorizing.
for the same reason it's capital.
Yes.
Keeps it
thank
clean,
you.
right?
I appreciate it. Excuse me?
Keeps it clean.
It keeps it clean, transparent. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
The
we have
audience
a
won't
motion
yell
and a
at me.
second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to change the town council reservations of 2021 capital reserves that state street sweeper to read loader for the amount of $13,500.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Ms. O'Hara seconded. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Did I cover everything now? We bounced all over the place.
G.
Good G.
Oh, yep. Discussion by council vote of the action on penalties and tax adjustments. Mr. Jesus?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm asking town council to approve two penalties. One of them is from 2005. He called the other day. I guess he has a block on his registration, and he's willing to pay it. And I'm asking the council to waive his penalty. And the second one's from 2007, same thing. I guess the Department of Motor Vehicles sent out a bunch of letters for everybody that was blocked. And also, that's over 10 years. I would like to waive their penalty of $277.89. Both accounts will be a total of $652.30.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the penalty adjustments for motor vehicle in the amount of $652.30 per the suggestion of the finance director.
And Ms. O'Hara seconded. Any discussion? Questions? Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corriveau?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Yes. Mr. Vadenais?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
The second tax adjustment is for a taxpayer that is deceased, and it's for $51.37.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the tax adjustment for deceased individual in the amount of $51.37 per the suggestion of the finance director.
Is there a second on that? Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corriveau?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Yes. Mr. Vadenais?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go into executive session now, but thank you for your time. It's a lot of work. I know it is. But let me just make this before anybody gets up. Discussion by council vote of the action on Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2, session pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation or work sessions, potential litigation. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we recess into executive session under discussion by council vote or other action on Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2, sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation or work sessions, one, potential litigation.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Ms. Alves, yes?
Yes.
Mr. Corriveau?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Yes. Mr. Vadenais?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. ready over there? Okay. Oh, no, they're gonna come. They're gonna come. Yeah.
Ready, John?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to, I will entertain a motion to come out
So
of
that we
executive.
that we reconvene in open session.
What?
We reconvene in the open session.
We're gonna make a motion to reconvene?
No, you just state that we have
Yeah,
reconvened.
I know, yeah, okay. I'll entertain a motion that we come out of executive session, seal the minutes, and indicate no votes were taken. Right? Isn't that what we always do? What am I missing? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.